a good gesture to involve students into such a program, and I'm sure this will increase, the number of students will also increase. We had some restrictions, so we had a limited number of students whom we invited and asked them to present their work out here. I'm sure all of you, whenever we get free from this presentation, could go through the drawings and encourage them. When this thing happens, I would request the students whose work has been put here to be present next to their work, so that any questions, if they raise, you can answer them. We are also keeping a few prizes for the work that has been displayed out here. We have two teams that we have made for evaluating the work, other than Chakravarti sir. One of the team has Deepa, Reena and Mrs. Chakravarti as one team to assess the work, and the second one will have Vibha, Vinodyaji and Anjan. We would request that after this is over, you kindly go through the work and give your evaluation, so that we can judge the first 3 entries, I suppose, who can be felicitated in this program and encouraged for more of such works and more such involvement in subsequent events which the chapter would plan. So I would be handing over the paper later on to the teams. In our presentation.
Our next presentation is going to be from architect Rakesh Kushwaha. Rakesh sir is an architect, academic.
Here is how our office does things. Doesn't mean that you have to do it like that, but I would just address some issues that I think are crucial to each one of us present here. I have developed a certain process. Let me just go through how our firm has evolved. I'll be very quick about it. After working in US for about 5 years, when I came back here in Bhopal, I found out that architecture as a practice is not a very organized market. My first fee check was 1800 rupees. I mean, that much I used to spend on a cup of coffee in US. It came as a shock to me. I was extremely organized. When I started my office, I had 10 tables and I had no projects. We had a plotter, A0 size plotter. I mean, Rahul showed up when 98 sometimes. Other people off and on who work with me, they know how our office has grown. We had no clue where we are. We had no relation with the people who we were working for. And we struggled first few years. Obviously, we were on CAD platform. Everything that Nakul sir has talked about, partially what Vinay has spoken about, we did follow in our office. We did have a CAD manual in 1997. Okay, and since then we followed all effective CAD practices. We tried to implement how well we can do our drawings. I've always insisted on doing better drawings because it saves a lot of your time, it saves a lot of clients' time, it saves a lot of contractors' time. So I will just, in last 5 to 6 years, I've changed from a CAD based practice to a BIM based practice. For those of you who don't know what BIM is Building Information Modeling. Software like Revit, software like ArchiCAD do this. Now I will just elaborate the advantages of using such a system. You can evaluate it on your own and see how it fits your scheme of things. Next please. So now, after having gone through the process of evolution from a small firm in the span of 15 years, now we have a little bit of luxury of being choosy. Right now we are doing mostly office buildings and educational campuses. We are working on a couple of universities and we are doing quite a few office buildings. We have migrated from client-driven project to now architect-driven project. Like Rahul has elaborated that, you know, you have the program, you have the budget, you have all the requirements that client gives you, but then he lets you steer the vehicle. You are the lead person who decides on what consultants to choose, what is an appropriate budget, who will work with you, who's going to be the contractor. Now these projects, we are the driver, we are the core force which decides how the project is to be implemented. Now with that, we have a little bit of luxury of managing our time. This job, essentially I am focusing on how do we manage ourselves, how do I conduct myself, and you can maybe, you know, learn a thing or two from it. So we prefer to have clients who give us the mandate but trust our design skills. which is very critical, as Vipin will testify. It does take some proving to do. I mean, you have to prove yourself that yes, you can do it. And when the clients see, I mean, you know, Rahul traveled from Bhopal all the way to Johannesburg to find a good architect. Why he couldn't find anything 3,000, 4,000 kilometer radius? Because there are people who are struggling and they have not proved themselves. So maybe we have proved ourselves a little bit. So we have luxury of telling our clients, back off, we'll do it, and they are happy with it. We also prefer clients who have well-developed system of construction. If you're working with a novice who do not have bright young men like Rahul working with them, we will avoid such clients. You could be a novice, but you should have your things in order. You should have your stuff in order. Now, choosing your clients is not everybody's luxury, but it does come with time. All the senior people will tell you that eventually you get there. Don't expect that first year in practice, this client is bad, मेरी सुनता नहीं है, मेरी design नहीं देखता है, सबके साथ होता है, हमने भी बहुत चला है. Now, 3 key software we use in our office are Google SketchUp, that is used for visualization. Second software where the design development takes place is ArchiCAD, and to complement ArchiCAD for doing basic presentation drawings, basic 3D drawings, which we do in-house. Should we feel that there is a requirement for a higher level presentation, then we outsource it to people who specialize in 3D maths, etc. But in-house visualization is done on ArchiCAD. Next please. Now this is how things happen. When we get a program from the client, we get a requirement, they tell us that this is how we want our buildings to be. Essentially, I don't do very much for first 15-30 days. I just sit on it in toilet sometimes, waiting for that sketch to happen. But I don't actually draw. I used to, but not anymore. Now I cook it in my head. I mean, trust me guys, it's been 20 years, so you've been doing it. So when you draw it with your head, you can also do it with your head. Few sketches going on, back of my head, several times, 4 AM in the morning, 6 AM in the morning, 10:30 at night, midnight, whenever that happens, but that keeps getting accumulated. When we understand the program, we cook the program, then first thing we do is we don't start drawing plans. First thing we do is we do a Google SketchUp where we do volumes. We will put our buildings, basically we understand how much parking is required, we basically understand how much space requirement for each project is, etc. etc. The first thing we do is basically a volume study. We place the building on an average size or the accurate size of the plot, and we just play with the various configurations. Now these are the things we look at next. Now once a configuration is arrived at, then we study it for various things, for shadows, for problems, for access, for parking and all these kinds of things. We have not drawn a plan yet. Okay, like Rahul showed, the first thing would start with a sketch, and then sketch is detailed out into a final working plan. That's exactly what we do in our office next. Now after that is done, next thing we do is rationalize that volume, rationalize that structure into grids, lines, columns, volumes, interconnection of spaces, etc. Now this happens on my desk, unfortunately. Some of my staff members sitting here regret that they would love to do that, but since I'm the principal architect and I'm responsible for design, it happens at my desk. After this is done, next. Then out of our Google SketchUp model, we give convincing enough renderings to the clients. So they look at our work at a very initial stage. We just spend maybe 10 hours of total on a project. And after 10 hours of our work, client is able to visualize what we are trying to do. And they are happy looking at it, they are able to criticize, they are able to give inputs. After this, we give them basic sketch plans, some quick sketches of how the volumes are going to be, what the key features of design, etc. are. And then they evaluate it and get back to us and okay, maybe you could, do this. They just suggest some tweaking here and there, and it stops at that next week. Now after that, as Nakul sir was talking about and what Vinay was saying, this is very critical. Nakul sir gave a presentation about CAD practices, line weights, project structure. We don't do that. Our software does it for us. We absolutely don't have to worry about the line weights, the text sizes, etc., etc., because the software takes care of it by itself. Now once after the project is formulated in Google SketchUp, next thing we do is we basically set our grids and what we call a project formulation. Project formulation would involve the various components of drawings, because we already have an idea how big the building is, what staircases are like, what details are required. So next thing we do is we basically chop out all the deliverables And this again is preset by the software, where you can tweak whether you require ceiling plans or not, what is the number of detailing you require, etc. etc. Next stage is to basically set it up in the grids, walls etc. are drawn, everything is drawn in 3D, so there is no 2D going on. Whatever I have done a sketch, the architect who is developing it already knows that whether it synergizes with the concept design exercise. Now the project is set up. Here, the project is set up meaning all the structural elements, all the aesthetic elements, all the core dimension and everything is controlled at this stage. So the basic drawing takes place. The guy who is drawing in 2D can see it in 3D. So somebody who's a fresh out of college guy, somebody who's just been out of college for 2 years, who has not done a 3D drawing, who's not strong in 3D visualization, the software takes care of it. The software tells you how your work is going to look like. So for small things, people who are not good at visualizing, we have experienced in the last 6 years that now even very dumb guys are very smart when it comes to visualizing things. Next please. So after the key aspects of projects are formulated, then we look around our building. We look at the product, that what is it that we are doing. Now all key elements, such as there is a beam which starts from here, there is a lecture hall stuck here, there is another space here, there are some double height elements. So these are critical elements of structure which need to be coordinated. So we identify what is the problem when it comes to detailing something like this out. Next. After that is done, obviously the basic working of working drawings, details, dimensions, etc. Now what Nakul sir talked about was, none of people in my office ever worry about line weights. They don't have to worry about text size. They don't have to worry about the scale of detail, how it is look. The title blocks are set, everything is already set because I have developed a template. Now that template is set for everybody. That template, basic template starts with all line weight set, all layer management set, etc. etc. So that task is already taken care of by the office itself. Next please. Now obviously the drawings come in from consultants, people, MEP guys, plumbing guys, working, etc. etc. Electrical guys come in, and the struggle goes on after that. Now consultants don't follow any layer management system, that's for sure. And you are absolutely right. Now next. Then once the drawing reaches the publishing stage, once the project is formulated and all the drawings are done, then this is how drawings are published. So these are the drawings which are published at the first stage, which means the project is set and good to go. Next please. And after this is done, then the details come in, the smaller details, the position, the sections, the claddings, the smaller details could come in later. But since we are working in 3D, we have a fairly clear idea of what is going to happen, what details we would eventually require, what issues we will eventually deal with. If there is a flashing that needs to be sealed, if there is a facade that needs to be worked on, we know it upfront. Maybe we are not able to deliver it the first publication time, but eventually at the time of second set goes out, we are through with the project. So the same structure which you saw in ArchiCAD being formulated now goes into Atlantis and it comes out as a finished 3D rendering. Now the same sketch has moved from a sketch to working drawing to a 3D drawing to the final building product. Next please. So this is the Atlantis sketch and this is the actual building. This is the School of Architecture we designed in Baroda, second year running. I'm also involved in a little bit of the academic side of the school. Next please. And once you see that happen and you go see the site, I mean the blunders contractor made despite of all the detailed drawings you gave because he never bothered to open them is something that we are still struggling with. Sometimes clients go for the wrong contractor because of cost and other factors. I mean the other factors which we are not going to talk about today, maybe sometime later Ram can teach me a thing or two about selecting better contractors next. Now this is a key point. After having elaborated my process, this is what I would like to share with you, that why this is so important. All of our practice is dependent on the person sitting at the top of the pyramid. Usually most are small firms, big firms in Bhopal city are driven by one person sitting at the top. In my office it is me, in Vipin's office it is Vipin, in others office it's obviously the principal architect. Now what does the principal architect do? He coordinates with design team, which includes their consultants and everybody. He also coordinates with the client. He also coordinates with the contractor. He also coordinates with the vendor. The person sitting at the top is doing everything. Because sometimes the juniors are not trained enough to do that. The process doesn't allow it also. Next please. Now, the structure of a design team in most offices is such that there is a principal architect, a bunch of junior architects or right-hand men or women for that matter, who understand, every office has them, every mid-sized office has them. And then there are draftsmen who basically do the minor level detailing and minor level tasks. In a BIM kind of a setup, you don't have draftsmen. So there is an architect who is a principal architect who basically gives the sketch, and then there are architects who detail it out. Now they have to understand, each one of these team members have to understand the building in and out. If they don't do, they'll do a bad job. Your drawings would be bad. And because the software helps you visualize better, even a simple kid who's just finished training in our office, after 6 months of working on the software, is able to visualize what is going on in the building. Next please. Now what does this do for us? I give a sketch, I forward that sketch to my team, I help them set up an ArchiCAD project, and my role is finished. Since they already have a model, they know what needs to be done with the building, they do everything. I have to do very little. Now, how much time I spend on the project? Of the total man hours required, probably only 10%. The rest is done by either